Okay, this is take two, church. Hi, church. Because I hit record, but not record on this computer. So you're getting take two, which of course should be more polished, but is not because that's not how life works. Anyhow, church, I'm thrilled to have our dear friend Marvin K. White with us today. Marvin, who was formerly and will always live in memory as our public theologian in residence of a few years ago. Marvin, who's gone on to great and wonderful and sacred things as the minister of celebration at Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco, a storied church, a church with a lot of history and a lot of future. Hi, Marvin.
Hey, Molly, it's good to see you. Thank you for inviting me to talk with you.
I'm so glad. I'm always glad to talk with you. We go for a lot of walks and talks, and I'm glad that people get to eavesdrop on that today and also join in the conversation in the chat. Hey, how's Glide? You've had a lot. You've had a big year.
Yeah, we have had a big year. We are, of course, we're no longer UMC. We are an independent church. We are articulating who we are as a church. We are thinking about our statement of faith and our mission, vision, and values at the same time that we're in a pandemic, and we're trying to figure out who we are in this moment, what the church is becoming, not just for Glide, but in the world in this moment, and if there's a need for one, and how should it show up, and what does it mean to be a televangelist in this moment? Just like all the things, and Glide is good. We are so set on liberation. No one promised us what the road would look like. No one laid it out, but they just said, keep going. And that's what we do. It's so, as long as we're liberation minded, whether it's in space, in the virtual, or on land, on the ground, like I feel like we're still moving. So we're, yeah.
And you know, what you're saying is so true of all of our churches, whether we've been through a denominational tussle or not, whether we're kind of on the verge of figuring out who we are next explicitly or not. This pandemic and everything attached to it has called us into new spaces. And now is it calling us out of those spaces? As you know, we get back to in-person worship. I feel like our church is one of the last to go back, and that's fine. You know, everyone does their own risk assessment with their people and looks at the risks and looks at the risks to body, spirit of going back, of not going back. Some people will never go back. I find myself thinking about that a lot. What does it mean if not everyone comes back in person? How do we hold each other and hold ourselves together? How do we contain ourselves, or do we contain ourselves?
I think
who's
that's
in,
it.
who's out? Yeah.
You know, when we, and for me, because I am so like pro outer space and virtual, I have to always make sure that I'm not like, don't look back. Just let's keep going.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of like,
I wonder if you actually are an extraterrestrial.
You know?
Have you ever thought about that? You seem very comfortable in space, like just out there.
You know, if I am an overlord,
I hope you are. I'm sure you are somewhere.
A good one that goes from planet to planet, planting flowers. But you know, how do we make sure that I'm not pitting like those who are strongly footed in terra firma and those who are extraterrestrial, you know, terrestrial and extraterrestrial right now? And where is the middle ground going to be? Because we're going to be reunited.
How do we not be binary? Yeah.
And I love that word. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's come right back to this, but let's read the scripture first. We went to Mark's Gospel for the Day, chapter 9. I wanted to talk with Marvin about this one because it's so weird. And Marvin, I love all like the weirdest things about Christianity. You know, I love that with Marvin, we can just kind of open it up and not find an answer and not, you know, get the perfect exegesis that satisfies, that like makes us comfortable with the text, but we can just let it be weird and explore the contours of its weirdness. So here we go. And for context, this comes right after James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were brothers, had been fighting over which one Jesus liked better, and Jesus overheard them and basically humiliated them for that. So this is John's attempt to change the subject really fast and kind of point the finger at someone else. John said to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone using your name to expel demons, and we tried to stop it since this person was not part of our group." Jesus said in reply, with a heavy sigh, are the side notes, "Don't try to stop it. No one who performs a miracle using my name can speak ill of me soon thereafter. Anyone who is not against us is with us. The truth is, anyone who gives you a cup of water in my name because you belong to the Messiah will certainly not go without a reward. Rather than make one of these little ones who believe in me stumble, it would be better to be thrown into the sea with a large millstone hung around your neck. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It would be better to enter life maimed than to have hands and go into Gehenna where the fire never goes out. If your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and be thrown into Gehenna. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It would be better to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be drawn into Gehenna, where the worm never dies and the fire never goes out. He's quoting Isaiah 66 there. And then 3 completely random phrases of Jesus to end. Everyone will be salted with fire. Sounds like a new ice cream flavor, if you ask me. Salt with fire. Salt is good, but if salt loses its flavor, how can you make it salty again? And finally, maybe referencing the fight between the brothers, have salt in yourselves and live in peace with one another.
Yeah.
Here ends the gospel. Thanks be to God.
Yeah.
There's a lot here.
There's a lot here.
All, but let's get weird with it.
Yeah, so apparently I'm handless, footless, and I got 1 eye, you know.
You're ready. You're ready for heaven.
But I'm alive.
You're alive.
Can't dance, can't run.
In a trash heap with the
What?
eternal worm and the eternal fire.
Oh,
Jesus, come on.
yeah.
You know, you're just lying. You know, you don't mean any of that. You know, like Jesus, who saw everything, did not see anyone taking this literally. Like, there are people who take Jesus literally. So Jesus, stop. Just stop.
Yeah, I think that's
too much.
I tell people all the time, you know, you have to think of the Bible not as a history book, but as a mystery book. Like, it is, it's supposed to give you pause and give you questions. It's supposed to titillate. It's supposed to get your senses fired up. It's not supposed to, you know, you're not supposed to memorize it. You're supposed to be a page turner. You know, it's all those things.
You just made me think about something like, you know, we have some folks in our community who are disabled, who have taught us a lot about disability theology and how whatever is, quote, wrong with us according to the world, you know, God doesn't see us as blemished or lame. God sees us always as whole. And like, maybe if you see someone who has clearly been through something, you know, they're the ones who are ready for heaven. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Whatever they've been through, whatever they've lost along the way, eye, hand, foot, you know, metaphorically, has made them more ready for heaven, for the kingdom. Yeah. And thank you for bringing it around to like disability theologies. I don't want to be like glib with, you know, with our bodies and what their functions are after we go through changes or lose certain parts of our bodies. But I'm also interested in how we look at people and their worthiness when we see them in their disabilities, you know, and we compare them to our abilities. Like, they're in a wheelchair, they must be worse off. They must be of no use. They must, you know, we must give a certain amount of sympathy. And, you know, maybe that shape is the shape that God needs them in to do the thing that God wants to do through them. You know, it's not on me to like look at someone and say, oh, that must be rough. You know, right. That's the pity, you know, God never calls us to pity. And Jesus here yet again for the 9,070,000th time is saying to people of privilege, no, to James and John, the little one, don't make the little one stumble.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ones we think of as lesser are really the ones who are ready. They are ready for it. The one who you think of as the outsider is really the most inside, because they might not be part of our in-group, but the result of their effort, the result of them using my name of power is for someone's good. They're casting out demons. They're restoring people to themselves.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. For some reason, I just had this weird image of folks outside and like coming along and putting salt on like an icy ground, to give people an opportunity to get traction.
Yes.
And I'm returning to this. Salt is good, unless you're turned into a pillar of salt, and then it's bad.
Not so fun.
You're not so fun.
Especially when it starts raining later.
Right. Molly. Yes. But yeah, what is the salt that is good? And when do we lose? First of all, I love, because you're salty. I love your saltiness, but there's also this question, it's like, but if salt has lost its saltiness, how can you season it? Like, how can you?
That's all it is. Like, nothing left. That's what it is. It doesn't have any flavor apart from its saltiness.
It brings out, and you were saying earlier, it preserves as well, and I mean, what is the role?
And it enhances sweetness too, right? We did a Lectio Divina on this with worship team the other day, and it's like, this time of year is great for heirloom tomatoes. You go to the market, you get a perfect juicy red. I almost don't ever want to eat a tomato except in like late August to late September from Northern California. But it's even better. You take a thick fat slice and you put a little bit of, you ask what's the best salt? It's Maldon smoked sea salt. I have an answer to this question. You put a little bit on, and it's everything. And it makes a sweet tomato so much sweeter because of the contrast with the saltiness. So the saltiness that Jesus longs for us to have brings out our sweetness, And have you ever known someone who's just too nice? Do you know people, like, there are people who are just too nice?
Yeah, I don't trust them.
No, me either. What are you hiding? I don't think we can be friends. You're too nice. Like, I can't trust you with my whole self because you're too nice, and I know you're secretly judging me.
Yeah.
I need to know you have a little salty.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. And we're also saying, I need for you to know that I'm a little sweet as well. I think all of that distrust of goodness, is really about our own internalized, badness, and someone sweet comes along, that our response is, I don't trust you.
I know it's wrong, because there are like genuinely good all the way through people.
That's on us, but that's also faith, the best parts of what we believe in. Here it is. It's for you. It's not against you. It will make you feel better. It will make you look better. It will give you a quality of life that that will change how you look at the world, and we don't trust it. We don't.
How can we, like, how can we be innocent again? How can we naively trust in the goodness of the Lord?
Yeah.
The aroma of Christ, taste and see that God is good. Especially when life is really hard.
Yeah.
And how can we enjoy what we enjoy when life is so hard? How can we give in to that sweetness?
I think it's in the giving in. I don't know how to swim. I don't even know how to float, I think. But
you do.
Like, how do you give in is also like a saltwater thing as well.
Like
Like,
very buoyant.
you know, and
Dead Sea,
like
you
maybe
can't
that's,
not float. Yeah.
yeah, you can't, and that's it. You can, and I want to use a double negative. You can not float,
Cannot not float. I'm with you.
Oakland Public Schools. And, but that's what letting go feels like. When you said that, I'm like, I saw just, someone said the opposite of floating is fear,
Right. Because the
you know,
more you struggle, the more
yeah,
likely you are to drown.
yeah,
Really, the trick to floating is surrendering,
yeah, yeah,
letting the water do the work.
yeah. And the water is doing the work.
Yeah.
If we're thinking about like the baptism, like the water is still doing the work. It is still at work in the world, and all we have to do is just float in it,
Yeah.
and it's such a natural state, to be, you know, in our mother's wombs and floating, and
We all want to go back there, even Nicodemus.
yeah,
How about you? And like
yes,
go back in our mother's womb and be born again.
yes, yes.
You
It
know,
was, go ahead.
this tracks to what something we were talking about before I turned the recording on. I think this text is about us as individuals, but also all the texts are always about us together, the whole community, the whole
Yeah,
kingdom. And I've been thinking so much about what happens to the church now. I referenced this at the beginning, now that we're going back, or some of us are going back. We just sent out our sustaining giver letter this week. We're really hoping you sign in and sign on. And gosh, that sounded so like marketing. I did not mean it to. We hope that however you participate in First Church Berkeley, you find that it adds saltiness and sweetness to your life, and that you want to sustain it for others as well as for yourself. At the same time, it's like, I'm so kind of over church as this tight little container. We have, the last 18 months have blown it up. I just came back from sabbatical where I was at church everywhere I went.
yeah,
And I don't want to get back in the box. I'm happy to go back to the sanctuary, but I don't want to get back in the box. And
yeah,
how do we, you have talked about kind of like, now we're in outer space, and some of us are on Earth, and really need to be earthbound. And some of us are like ready to fly off into space and be weightless. And yeah, what were we saying before? Remind us, because we were brilliant.
yeah, I know. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of us were in church on Sunday, and somewhere around Tuesday, we were told that we had to leave our sanctuaries in our churches, and we had to, until we weren't in church the next Sunday. And so we didn't say goodbye, on that Sunday where we left church. And so it felt like we all had to get on the spaceship, because this was no longer safe. We had to get off of this planet and go into outer space. And
Earth was torched. Earth was a salted field.
Earth was a salted field. And it had been, like salted from the previous administration, from all the racialized violence, all the climate,
going back 50 years, the Southern strategy, all of it.
And this on top of it, we just had to get out of here. And it's that time and space. And there were some people who were like, no, just like there are folks who ride out tornadoes and storms who are not going to leave their homes, and just their strategy is to either hope for the best, or somehow they're going to speak to that storm and they're going to say, not my house, not today. And that is, for me, now that has to be as brave as leaving, the planet.
Right.
And
going out and facing the storm and screaming to the face of it.
Yeah. And, or going into the unknown, and we don't know what happens in space. We had to make it up, as we went along, and we're still making it up, and we still don't know where we are. we still don't know when we get to come back. We still don't know under what condition, and, but when we do come back, we know that we will be changed forever,
And earth will be changed,
Yeah.
right? And time may have passed more slowly or quickly on earth than for us in outer space. Like, yeah. We're all off kilter. We're all on different timelines. And
I will miss, however, being weightless.
I will remind you that we have the same mass, even if fortunately or unfortunately.
Because these COVID 25 pounds does not say I was in outer space at all. But I am so much of my faith is I can see the great reunion. I can see my ancestors that I knew and didn't know.
Yes. Like
can
who's present, even if they're not, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, please.
Who's present with us, even if we can't see them?
Yeah. And what does that coming back feel like together? It's not, it's not like warring parties, like making up. This is like we are rejoining, and that is, if I can hold it like that, and not like we're going to have to change them or they're going to have to change us, like we're going to have to come make this new thing. And that our survival will depend on that. So how you used to give has to change, and how I used to think about you has to change, and how we are church has to change, because we have all changed.
The whole form is changing. Yeah. Even for those of us who walk back inside those four walls and roof, how can we still be weightless, or have less weightiness? And how can we perceive that we are still in a place without walls, and that God is still in our most intimate places and knows what our sweatpants look like? Come in our sweatpants, like maybe for a long time we've said, come as you are. Do we really mean that?
Yeah.
Do we really mean you can come back just as you are?
Yeah.
And be loved, and not have someone make you stumble because you didn't come right, you didn't come with the right tribe or the right name or the right beliefs, or
you don't have the Maldives salt from the farmer's market, or the organics.
I know.
You come with Morton's and
I'm such a white lady. I'm such an upper middle class white lady.
And it's all good.
And still beloved.
But how are we going to fill the space between us also when we return, and there's social distancing, and the space that we create from the other and the stranger and the visitor when they come in, and now that we are going to be strangers and visitors, to one another when we come back, like that space between us is going to be even more important, that we understand that God is there also. And we're gonna have to figure out that space.
Yes. Yep. How to not make it a polite space.
Yeah.
How to acknowledge just the invisible energy holding us, no matter how much distance is between us.
And there's so much room between us in 6 feet, and if you think that is not enough room, like there's so much God space and so much nature and so much air and mass and all the things you can't see, and how much salt, even if that's your measure, like between us, that grain, it's like those experiments where you see like all these objects in a jar. You put like golf balls in a jar, then you pour sand. Is it full now? Then you put beans, and then is it full now?
Yeah. Like you put water.
Yeah. And there's always room.
Yeah. This is really cliche, but I still need to say it. And I preached this my first Sunday back from sabbatical. I found so much church everywhere I went and so much God in nature and with the people I love and with new friends I met. And like, I'm not ready to give that up.
Yeah.
How can I cram it all inside the church with us? How can we all bring all the God we find everywhere and fit it inside the church?
I think that's it. I think that's it. This is about like finally like stopping over identifying with what we thought church was, what we thought a building is, what we thought it means to be faithful is. God has upended it all. What we think giving is. We need to give. We're going to have to give in a new way. I'm not trying to be all about your campaign, but everything is changing. It all has to.
And we have, right. And part of it, we have to give because we long to and not out of duty. We have to give because it feels good and not because we're supposed to.
Yeah. And it's the new flavor of God, like we didn't expect God to show up in a different way. We thought this was the God we were going to have until we die.
We had to hold on to that God and not let that God change too much because, it's a happy marriage. We don't want to disrupt things by introducing a lot of extra, we don't know what, desires, longings.
Yeah. And most people have never seen God in a pandemic. If you are not full of awe and wonder about who God is in a pandemic, you are missing out.
The book of mystery.
Yeah.
Mystery.
I believe it.
A very salty God.
Yes.
Constantly adding new flavor. That's time for conversationalists. I know.
Did we hit all the points we were supposed to hit?
Yeah. We'll just have to come back again and again. But we want to give you one more second. I was trying to figure out at the beginning of this how to get Marvin and I side by side instead of this sort of Brady Bunch thing we have going on. And I found this immersive thing that's too fun. I'm going to go with the morning show. Here we go. Marvin and I, you can't see my mug. I love you, California. Marvin and I are going to have our own morning show. I think Oprah's going to pick it up. What do you think, Marvin?
I think Oprah better watch her back.
We've got some competition. No,
is it the Molly and Marvin or the Marvin? What's that?
I said, Oprah, you're amazing.
Yes. We love you. We love you. Choose our books. Is it the Molly and Marvin show or the Marvin and Molly show?
I think the Marvin and Molly show.
Okay. I don't want to argue with you, so yeah.
No. I love you, Marvin.
I love you, Molly. Thank you for allowing me to be weird with you, for not having an answer with you, for just letting our minds wander and go. It is what, for me, it means to be in creation with you. And I love it so much. Thank you.
Thank you for always blowing the doors and the ceiling off and the walls off the church whenever we're together. And, again, before we were recording, you were talking about the roller coaster and how we could hold on tight, white knuckle, this ride that God has put us on, or we can let go. So shall we let go on the count of three?
Let's go.
1, 2, 3.
Woo! Bye, Molly. Oh, sorry. Molly.